This morning, I'm going to start not from our prepared newsletter, but I'm going to start from talking about immigration somewhat. As you know, you see all the nasty stuff these criminals, these legal criminals, these thugs are doing it. Max thugs are doing in Chicago and other places, beating people up, throwing them into cars, throwing them down. Yesterday, they went and they arrested a teacher on her way to school where all her students could see her being arrested and manhandled like a criminal. That's what our government has revolved into. Well, recently, our good friend Lizzie, welcome Lizzie to Politics Done Right. How you doing, sis?
I'm so glad to be with you. Thank you so much.
Well, let me tell you, we are glad to have you here. I think this was a post that you recently put on our on our Facebook or something that got some traction, but it is I mean it is important for people to know. Tell us a little bit about you, and then let's go into what you did.
Thank you again for letting me be on the show. Hi, Mayana. Hi, Jack. Good morning to you both. Uh, Essentially, I volunteered to produce a show on Fridays at 9:30 a.m. on KPFT. It's a call-in show, and it's the same number as Egberto's, and I invite everybody to call in about
Go ahead. Tell us
immigration.
about your show. Yeah.
Why did I do this? The reason I did this is because the news is it's coming out at the rate of a fire hose instead of a little garden hose. There's so much information. It is hard to digest, which is of course by design.
Mm-hmm.
When you create chaos, you can get away with a lot more. You can divert the attention of the public from things that are really horrible happening. So my main goal in this program is to give out some essential resources, not to be the expert, because I'm not an immigration lawyer, Egberto, and I'm not I don't work for an immigration advocacy firm. I'm a retired high school administrator. So my main goal was to give out resources so that if people have a question, they know where to go. Would it be okay if I gave out a phone number right now?
Absolutely. This is what we're here for.
Okay. There is something called the Houston Immigration Hotline. It's answered in a wide variety of languages, of course, English and Spanish, but languages from the Democratic Republic of Congo, from the Chinese languages, Mandarin, Cantonese, etc., all the languages. It's answered 24/7. Of course, they guard your confidentiality as a caller. The number is 1-833-468-4664. 1-833-468-4664. Do I work for this organization? No, I don't. But I know it's an organization that will give out free and reliable information about what to do if you're facing some kind of a personal challenge right now regarding immigration. So I made a post because, what happened was a couple of weeks ago, my daughter called me weeping, my adult daughter. She was on her way to my house to drop off my granddaughter. I care for my granddaughter 3 days a week. She was crying. She had seen something that she found shocking. When you see something on TV, there's a level of separation that you might not fully grasp the emotional impact of something that's happening. But when you see it in person, it's a really different experience. And what she had witnessed was the tail end of a major raid. I live in Southeast Houston, in the very near Woodridge and 610, where there's a Home Depot, and the raid was at Home Depot. And what she saw was women screaming and crying next to several work trucks that were now empty. And the narrative that she could put together that I think is true is that the drivers of those work trucks had gone to Home Depot to pick up,
construction supplies,
nails for their hammers, for their whatever. and there had been a raid, and their partners and their wives had shown up later, and there were their empty work trucks, and these women were absolutely bereft, and it affected my daughter very much. So I thought to myself, I got it. When your children, I know you know this, Egberto, when your children get emotional, when your children feel hurt, you feel it 5 times more, So I said, well, let me make sure to put the post of something called the red card and the number that I've already given on Facebook. And I called Marlo and asked her to put on the KPFT site. The KPFT Facebook site has received almost 1,000 comments and almost 800 shares of that post. So it got some attention. I feel like I'm talking too much, Egberto. Do you want to?
No. I mean, not at all. I mean, you're providing us that information. In fact, I'd like you to tell us what's on the post as well.
Okay. What's on the post is something called the red card. The red card is a document, and it is a card like a business card sized little piece of cardstock that the design is that one would carry it in their purse or their wallet so that if they're faced with immigration agents, they can show the agents their red card. The red card only delineates the rights that a person has. A person. I didn't say citizen. I didn't say legal permanent resident. I said person. Persons have rights under the Constitution. So the red card was developed in the early 1970s, and it was part of something called Know Your Rights training for immigrants, which continues now and happens at least weekly by organizations such as Fiel and other immigrant advocate organizations. It has, again, the rights, and if you like, I will talk a little bit about those rights.
Please.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, the rights are they're the constitutional rights, and let me also say that the most frequent comment that I've seen in response to the post is that persons who are undocumented, sometimes called illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, whatever, persons who are undocumented are not protected by the Constitution. That is false. The Supreme Court, there's 2 major cases.
Rulings.
Again, I'm not an immigration attorney and I'm not a constitutional expert, but just for my own research, I found that there's 2 cases, Shaughnessy versus United States and Plyler versus Doe, which guarantees persons who are on this soil that there can be no deprivation of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Plyler holds that unlawfully present aliens are entitled to both due process and equal protection under the 14th Amendment. So, what's on the red card? I've got it here, and I'm scrolling down. I know that the first thing that's on the red card is that people have the right to remain silent, always. Obviously, when you're presented with someone that has a mask on and no indication of what law enforcement agency they're with, but they're demanding you to get on the ground, or they are threatening you with handcuffs and etc. and using very aggressive language, it's hard to stay silent. But you have the right to stay silent. If they arrive at the door, you have the right at your home, or they're knocking on the door, you have the right to not open the door. These are all things that are on the red card. Unless you must open the door unless they have a warrant that is signed that has your name on it. So if they came to my door and it says Lisi and it's signed by a judge, then they have to open the door. So many people believe that this is not true, that this is some kind of a progressive lie, or not even progressive lie, just immigrant sympathetic lie, and it simply is not. I am looking for the red card. It's early in the morning. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, not a problem. Let me just say that I think it's important as you look. Let me just say this as people need to know what is really the right thing to do, because a lot of people that are getting arrested or thrown to the ground, they don't know what is the right thing for them to do, what is legal or what is just hearsay. And one of the reasons I think your show is so important, and also the post that you place on the Facebook at KPFT is so important, is that it actually points out to people these are the things that you must do. And again, if the agent doesn't follow these particular rules, then what? And I don't know. I'm going to leave that to you to explain. Continue, please, Lizzie.
Well, I don't know what. The only thing I can think of is that perhaps in the future there will be some kind of a reckoning. Perhaps these agents. Now, see, I really think this is so terrible, but I really think this is why they're wearing masks, so they can escape later retribution for really ghastly illegal behavior, violent illegal behavior.
The good thing about that I like is that a lot of people are doing deep searches to find out who these thugs are, so that when we have a real administration that believes in the Constitution and believe in legalities, will really, like I've said in many of my shows, there must be all these criminals out there that are arresting people illegally, all these criminals out here, both in the Trump administration doing what they're doing. It is time for us to start amassing the information, because they must all pay a price. This fever is going to break. This fever is breaking. They will pay a price. Continue, sis.
Well, I want to ask you a question. Sometimes I wonder if there's going to be a time where there'll be a reckoning. Do you think there will be a reckoning?
Yes, there will be a reckoning. Let me tell you something, okay? And I speak to a whole lot of people. And yesterday, it's amazing you asked that, right? Because I was speaking to a woman at a protest yesterday, and she said, "Is this all for naught?" And I'm like, "No, it's not all for naught." And I said, "You want to know how I know that? Because we got in one cycle, not even in a half a cycle, what occurred in that election throughout the country. Everybody's concentrating on New York, Virginia, New Jersey, and California.
Right.
That is not where that's not where the real thing happened. The real thing happened in Georgia. The real thing happened in Mississippi. The real thing happened in these deep red states, when the full state had to vote on something, or where areas had to vote on something, that change occurred. And that has the right now in a panic, but it's too late, because the people have already woken up. This is going to get worse. In other words, the torment from the federal agents is going to get worse. They going to different places, it's going to get worse. But we have to keep the pressure on with the civil, peaceful protests that we're doing. We have to keep the pressure on, and the people have got to continue coming out to vote. We are winning this thing. Go ahead, sis.
Yeah. Well, it's just emotionally exhausting, and I really understand that woman's fear, because sometimes I falter. Sometimes I think, oh my gosh, this is just, when is it going to end? Or is it going to end? So to review what's on the red card, which so many people on Facebook had huge problems with, but these are rights that are guaranteed by the Constitution, and were they were held up by the Supreme Court in those two landmark cases. Do not open the door if an immigration agent is knocking on the door. Don't answer any questions. Remain silent. Do not sign anything without first speaking with a lawyer. How do you find a lawyer? you call the Immigration Resource Hotline at 1-833-468-4664. Now, obviously, this is going to take, in that moment, you're not going to call the immigration hotline because at that moment, it's a moment of crisis. So what the Post said was, please prepare, particularly if you have children. In the case there's a family separation, there's got to be a plan. And unfortunately, we saw that family separations are, well, they happened in the first Trump administration, and they're happening now. Tragically, there are children that were separated from their families from the first Trump administration that have never been reunited with their families. I mean, is there any way to exaggerate the impact of that? I don't think so. I think these children's lives and the families' lives were destroyed. So if you're outside your home, ask the agent if you're able to leave and say yes and leave calmly. Please try to stay calm. The level of violence has been frightening, and staying calm might help the agents to also keep their vibrational level calm, and they will also stay calm. You may say, I do not wish you permission to search any of my belongings based on my Fourth Amendment rights, and I choose to exercise my constitutional rights. And again, you can show the card. So another thing that the people on the Post, respondents from the Post said, again, almost 1,000 comments, were, what difference is this card make? They're still going to hurt you. I guess my particular hope is that that the agents will take a breath, that they will uphold their promises as a law enforcement officer, as peace officers. You can talk about whether or not that's ironic or not, but I believe people are fundamentally good, and perhaps this will add a layer of protection or give you a few minutes to get sort of your head together. But the most important thing is to have a plan, particularly if you have children. Call 1-833-468-4664. They can help you develop the plan. They can help you find a lawyer if that's what you need. They can talk you through what your options are. The immigration law is really very complicated. There's lots of ways to have entered the country legally, and even have a visa overstay is considered a illegality. So there's lots of ways to be illegal
violation.
as well. It's a civil violation.
Yes.
So, but it's not being treated that way anymore as a civil violation. It's being treated as a serious criminal violation. Witness, of course, the fact that there is a proposed idea that undocumented people no longer are given bond. That's being argued in the courts. But think about it. You're a person on your way to work. Maybe you're a legal permanent resident. Maybe you're a brown person who was born in this. Maybe you're a citizen. Maybe you're a brown person that was born in this country. You're on the way to work, and you're minding your own business and you're taken in. You don't have what is being proposed is that you don't have access to bond. It's being argued in the courts, but right now you're not given bond. It's really kind of amazing. ICE argues that people that have been picked up are not eligible to ask an immigration judge for release from detention on bond. So even if they have spent years inside the country living an upright, moral life, even as you say that they're citizens, they may not be given bond.
Yeah, well, that is sad. Let me ask you, Lizzie, to please go ahead and tell us, because I know you do a show every week where you cover these issues. Please tell folks how they can get to your show and talk to you every week.
It's on Fridays at 9:30 a.m. And the point of the show is not for me to talk. It's for my guests to speak. I hire immigration attorney. Sorry, why did I say hire? I don't know why I said that. I asked to be on the show. Immigration attorneys. I don't hire anybody. Please, I don't know why that word came out of my mouth. I'm a volunteer. There's no money being exchanged between anyone. I ask experts such as Cesar Espinosa Fiel, such as Edgar from the ACLU, immigration attorneys, immigrant advocates, to come on the show and tell us what they know and tell us how we can all stay safe. 9:30 a.m. on KPFT, the same number as Egberto, 713-526-5738 to make a comment. We welcome comments and questions. I hope that you all will call. I so much appreciate your time, Egberto, and I listen to your show all the time.
I appreciate you, sis, and this is an important subject that I am glad that we were placed in contact to do this because and by the way, you have an open door into the program whenever you have something to say because this is important and this is what we're all about. This is what we're supposed to be doing. So,
thank you.
Por estar aquí. I am so kind. Thank you so kindly for being here with us, and we'll keep talking. And thank you for the work that you do. It is such important work, my dear.
Se lo agradezco muchísimo. Hasta luego.
Te hablo más tarde. Ciao.
All of our country's problems, from polarization to ignorance on domestic and international issues to a complete misunderstanding of our economic and healthcare systems, are a direct result of a derelict mainstream media that too often bend over backwards to support corporate or bought politicians' wants as opposed to the people's needs for real information to make their lives better. Independent media is the only solution to inform truthfully and factually. Why? Because our loyalties are to you, the ones who fund us with small dollar contributions and subscriptions. Please consider supporting our independent media platforms by subscribing to our Egberto Off the Record newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. It's an investment that pays incalculable dividends.